This is That One Audition with Alyshia Ochse.
Just because for me, for funsies, I've been doing the interviews all day today, and I'm going to flip it on its head. So we're going to do rapid fire questions first. How about that?
I love it. Let's go.
Great. Worst audition you've ever had. Where was it? What happened?
I want to say it was for like a Pretty Little Liars.
Perfect.
Could have been the spinoff, could have been the OG. I don't really remember, but I remember it's an old school casting director. And I was very green. And I was like very new to the business. And I had my pages. I wasn't entirely off book. It was at a period in my life where I was just getting like 5, 6 appointments a week. Everything was in person. They were all great opportunities. My team has never held out, and they've been always so wonderful getting me into every room. I had no shortage, and every opportunity was great. So I was spreading myself very thin. I walked into this room. I was not off book, and I had my pages in my hand, and I was a little nervous because I don't like to do that. I know it's not a faux pas particularly, but it's not me. I was a little nervous, and she said something like, she was a bit snarky, and she was like, so have you done this before? Like, why are you here if you're not prepared? And I was like, I don't know.
Did you tell her, by the way, I just came from 3 other auditions?
No, I didn't. I was very green. I was like, I'm so sorry. This is what I have prepared right now. I apologize if it's not up to par. I was just more so apologetic than anything else. And now being the person that I am today, I would have been like, I did come from a bunch of other auditions and I'm giving you my best. So yeah.
So let's just figure this out. Have you seen her since?
No, I haven't. We don't do in-persons anymore, right? At least I don't. I haven't
No.
since.
I've done, I think, 3 in person
Oh, wow.
since COVID. Yeah.
Were they theatrical?
Yes. Yeah. It was director at the final mix and match, and they demanded it in person, but we don't do anything in person anymore. What are your thoughts on that? How do you feel about self-tape versus in person?
I think there's pros and cons to both. I really think that being in person, I love people and I love getting to show face and I love getting to feel the room and them feel me. And there's something energetically that you just don't get through Zoom or through a tape. But you do end up seeing, and I have been on the other side watching people's tapes. So I know that you're able to see more of a finished product through self-tapes. And then being an actor and self-taping, obviously you can like do it as many times as you want and like really tweak things and fine tune. And that's always super fun. But there's really something nice about just going in the room and leaving it there and just being like, okay, whatever it was is what it was. And like, we're done here.
Yes. Or getting to work it out with somebody. The only thing that I miss is walking in and being like, oh, they're interested. I'm a package that they might want to be able to like fit in this puzzle. And now we're going to work it out. Whatever I'm missing, that's the part I miss. But at the same time too, I don't like walking in and seeing their faces go, oh, I'm too short. I'm too tall. I'm too this. Like they're already out. I don't have to watch if they turn it off. That's the thing.
We've all been in that room where you just walk in and you immediately feel them check out because they're like, oh, you're not exactly what we thought you were, or we already have our pick in our minds, but now we're just doing it to be nice.
Okay, so I have to ask, with you growing up, LA all the time or California, just California based?
LA, like LA.
Nice. Okay, and I think you were doing plays and stuff. So was this always, I'm gonna be on TV. We're going to get this. This is the train. This is where it's going.
I always had a passion for storytelling. I remember being a kid and I was in after school drama programs and classes. I didn't do theater in high school. I didn't do plays or anything like that. I more so did like scene study and that's pretty much my knowledge in terms of having gone to a class. I didn't go to school for acting. I went to school for communications, which I think.
I saw that and I got excited. I was like, I just needed to get out here. So I was like, what is the fastest to Los Angeles?
And also it's applicable to everything. You can really apply it to anything and everything. And I've gained so many skills from studying communications that have lent itself to acting.
I think patterns of behavior is how somebody communicates, right? So if you're looking at a script, you're like, that's interesting. That person's always avoidant. You can see those things. That's what you were educated to do. I love watching people communicate. And you also speaking various different languages. I'm curious, what's the thing that you pick up on first when you're watching people communicate or you're crafting a character that's communicating, having so many languages
Hmm.
Versus somebody like I don't have a lot. I'm from Kentucky. We didn't learn any other languages. We barely know English. I'll say that. I can say that. But
Oh,
I
I'm actually about to go to Kentucky. I'm very excited.
everything's shooting in Kentucky now.
Yeah,
I'll send you to some spaces and places.
please.
When you're going to be there, maybe I'll be there too. What are you shooting?
Oh, amazing. A film called, oh, actually, maybe I don't know if I can share it, but
We'll pin
don't.
in it. Yep. Are you there May, June, July?
No, I'm there now in 10 days I go.
Okay, I'll give you some good places.
Please, yeah.
Sidebar that. And yes, we will not be mentioning what project it is until it's released. Don't you
Yeah.
worry.
Okay.
But when I go to other countries, right? Like I used to go to Israel a lot. I would study patterns of behavior or body movement because I didn't understand the language. Now, somebody like you that understands so many different languages, are you paying attention to what people are saying? Are you paying attention to body language more?
I mean, body language is universal. So I'm always paying attention to that. Like I'm very acutely aware of like when somebody's like this versus legs crossed, not crossed, head down, head up. Eye contact, I think, is crucial to like connecting with somebody. And sometimes you don't get that from people. Sometimes they're just flighty and like they're all over the place or they're not very, I don't know, tuned in. And yeah, I'm always tapped into body language. I think that's so important and definitely informs like different characters and different types of people and different situations, right? And then with languages, I feel like the main difference, like for example, an American person versus someone from Japan. Japan being very a communal culture. Everyone is very like tapped into each other and they're very much about helping each other out. Whereas I think in the States, we're a bit more individualistic. Not that one is better or worse than the other, but that definitely informs like culturally, I take from things like that as well. And then being an Iranian character, I think women in that culture are taught to maybe be a bit more soft spoken, a bit more demure. I hate that word, but I had to use it because it was the first one that came to my mind. But I think it varies from culture to culture. So whether it's tone of voice, inflection, I think for Noor, for example, from the character that I did from Night Agent, there was an element of her being around men in her job where she couldn't just lock in eye contact with her boss. It's very out of respect. You keep your eyes a little down. You're never too direct. You just stay in your lane. So all of that, I think, is so fun to play around with.
Then let's talk about that. Sometimes I jump all over the place in these interviews. Let's talk about the night agent because at first, when I was researching you, I was like, oh, she's second season queen. I thought you joined the L Word also in the second season. Then I went back and I was like, no, she was first season.
Yeah.
But joining the night agent in second season, first season's already come out. You know what it is, or at
Mm.
least you can see tonally what's going on. I'm curious how you approach that audition because you're already starting to talk about it, right? How she would interact with other people. Other than reading the script, how did you prepare for and Nor? And also that was on tape, right? So you're throwing
Yeah.
your version without it's Papsadera's office. Had they met you before?
They have, or they had, yes. And for a long time had a relationship with them. And going into it, there were elements I worked with a couple different coaches. For this one specifically, I worked with a coach. Her name is Sarah Mornell. Um, and I prepped the audition with her. And then when I got the job, I did this sort of character development thing that she does where you go through a therapy session as character.
Oh, yes.
So you are completely in character and she's your therapist and she speaks to you as if you are the character. It's so fun, so enlightening. Also, I sobbed like a small child in my session. Things that allow me to really tap into the psyche of the character, things that allow me to tap into the what and the why of the person. That was a big help for me doing that with her. And then also music. I always create a playlist for every character that I have that kind of maps out their journey at specific moments as well as overarching like their vibe. I had a lot of music for Noor, music that was like traditional Iranian music. She maintains like a very specific pace throughout the show, which is she's always on the go. She's always what's here, what's there, who can I trust, who can't I trust. So it's for me, it felt like very like percussion, like drums, like movement, like consistent movement. And I had a specific song that I would tap into before scenes to just get me in that feeling.
And as far as rhythm goes, that's something that you discover with a character. Is that something that you were able to pinpoint in the audition process before you even got the job? Because I'm curious how you approached finding these things. Because sometimes we get 2 days, sometimes we get a week if you're so
Mhm.
lucky, right? Papsadera usually gives a little bit more time, which I do appreciate his office for that. You might get 4 or 5 days.
I want to say I got three. And for the initial audition, I had, I was in New York and I had plans lined up all week. So I was a bit like frazzled when I got the appointment because I loved the material. I loved the project. I was really excited to work with Sean Ryan and the creatives. And so immediately I was like wanting to drop all my plans and put all my attention in this, but I couldn't exactly do that. So I was like, okay, how do I do this? I was able to pull a lot from my own life because I am half Iranian and I have been to Iran. So that really lent itself story-wise to Noor is like my own background, which was really nice. So I really tapped into that, journaled about that a little bit prior to my first audition, as well as just created a really although it wasn't, I mean, it was. I got Noor's why in the initial audition. It's like she's trying to get her family safely out of Iran. And that was very clear to me. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's an immediate click for me. So that was my initial prep for like before the first. And then once between the first and the second, when I was to meet Sean Ryan and a couple of the other creatives in for the callback, I then went into music. And because of New York City, because of the walkability, I was always on my phone being like, what's on Spotify? What does this character feel like? And I was just on exploring different types of traditional Iranian music, modern music, drum beats, because that just felt like she was just on the go. And then I was in New York and the thing was set in New York. So all of that was really part of a perfect medley of things that was just happening.
That works out really nicely. Were you still
Yeah.
there on vacation or were you working there for something else at the time?
I was actually in the process of moving there. Yeah.
Wow. That's always how it happens. I love where you're like, I'm gonna do this with my life now. And then your career's, oh, by the way, we're gonna go over here for a
I
little bit.
know. Sometimes too, it goes the opposite where you're like making a plan. Let's say I'm moving to New York and they're like, oh, go to Canada for the job. And it's, oh, okay, great. Here we go.
Yep. Okay, so let's talk about the callback with the creators. Everybody. Is that over Zoom as
That
well?
was in person.
That was in person. Okay, so then you got to luxuriate
Yes.
and play and get a real sense of everything, which I'm sure is really helpful because it's interesting to try and do chemistry or even test over Zoom. It just has a different feel to it. And I love talking to people to see how they handle that, right? Even down to the electricity, like the internet cutting out. It's a really versus you being in person, making a mistake or having something happen, they get to see the person. They're hiring the person at that point. Your skill has already gotten you there.
Yes.
Now, what they want to be with for a whole season. Do they like this person? Do they not?
And I think everyone has a different sort of way of going about it. I don't really think there's much consistency in that sense. I've had people go jump from first audition to last audition slash booking the job, or first audition and then 5 appointments in between before you book the job of 10 chemistry reads and how many ever meetings with this person and that person, the other person. So I feel like there's so many options of how it could go. You know what I mean? And for this specifically, it was like first audition, met Sean Ryan, waited for a week or so as negotiations and things were happening, and then the job. Like it was a pretty quick turnaround in that sense, which
Oh,
is nice.
dream. Television can move fast.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna reverse. So
Yeah.
you graduate with communications major. So then how all of a sudden, when do you get an agent? When do you start? Because pretty quickly, within a few years, you jump onto the L word, and that's where I want to get to, especially a remake of a really great popular show. There's a lot of weight on it. I remember when that was coming out in casting, every
Yeah.
woman in town was vying for a role in that. Didn't matter what age you were because it's such a beautiful show. So, yeah, we walk us through that after UCLA.
So I went to order of events. I was like 20 years old. And remember I told you I took an after school scene study class when I was like 11? It was taught by a woman named Ricky Dale, her kids went to the same school district as I did. So I knew her for many years to follow after taking those classes with her. And I ran into her when I was like 19 or 20 at the mall. And she was like, "Oh my God, how are you? How have you been?" And at the time I think I was doing background work and I was in college and working my butt off in all these random side jobs. And she was like, "Are you still acting?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm trying to make my way in." And she was like, "I just started managing. Why don't you and I like?" And I was like, "That is so wonderful and serendipitous, and absolutely we should." And she's still my manager to this day.
Oh my God.
Honestly, my favorite story to tell.
It's amazing. When you're like, obviously, I'm destined to do this. Okay. So she starts working with you, starts sending you on auditions.
Yes,
Um,
sending me out, introduced me to my agents who I'm also still with, Green and Associates, Ethan, Azim, Kieran, and Michael. I've been with them since the jump. My whole team, I've been with them since the very beginning, which was like 10 years ago, and they've been nothing but wonderful. They're like family.
they
So
are. They're wonderful. That's a
they're
great agency.
I
They're
love them.
great for really character actors and really great television actors. Like that's
Yes.
they're known for, and they kick butt doing
They
it.
kick butt and like attention to every single person. They're just so on it. Um, so shout out to them. I love them so much. So then I got with them and I was obviously very green. So we built very gradually. And then it was like guest star on NCIS LA, guest star on NCIS, like all these guest stars and like meaty ones, especially my very first one, which was on NCIS LA, which was like that the whole episode was about the character that I was playing, which was really fun. I got to have a little accent and which is such a joy for me. I love doing any sort of accent or language work that I can. And from there, got the 2 episodes on one project, I think. And then I got a series regular on this show called In the Vault, which was on Verizon's Go 90 network.
Yes. Yes.
And that was an absolute blast. And then shortly after that, I got an independent film and then I got L Word.
Yeah, I'm curious about L Word because, again, from a business perspective, it's nice to almost backdoor a series regular, right? So I'm assuming that this role, was it even written to be reoccurring? Was it just supposed to be a guest star and then they turned it into more? Or
No, it was a regular.
was a regular from the get-go?
Yeah, so the way the show was mapped out was they would have 3 of the OGs from the original show, and then a series like about 4 or 5 new characters to become regulars to mix the worlds together of like generation then, generation now. And yeah, so my character, Danny Nunez, was an LA native she was Latinx of Middle Eastern and Hispanic descent, which is literally me from LA mixed. I was like, oh, I picked it up. I was like, this is mine. And that job was one of those things where it was like, I think I had 7 meetings before I got the job. And
That
granted,
I talked to you about. Yeah.
from a business aspect, from a business like being on the production side, you're like, okay, this person isn't necessarily a bankable option yet because she has one series regular credit from a Go 90 network. Like it's not as widely recognized and what have you. So I think they were really taking a chance on me in that moment, which was I'm so grateful to all of them, to Eileen, to Marja, to Jennifer for giving me that opportunity, to Elise. Great producers, great team of women who took a chance on me. And I learned so much from that experience.
That's what I want to talk about is what you learned in that experience. I want to talk about this before the 7 meetings. Like you get your initial, did you have to make a tape for that? Yeah.
I did.
Yeah, make a tape.
Yep.
And what were your scenes? Were any of them of intimacy value? Because some of them that I was seeing, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's really hard for actors to figure out how to tape themselves in an intimate moment. So I was curious how you handled the sides to start with. These are the tough questions, right? I get these questions all the time.
Oh my gosh. I still, to this day, it's a case by case with those intimacy scenes. Like, how do you go about it that that in your opinion displays what needs to be displayed for
Like,
the
I
purpose
don't
of
like too much because then you send this tape off to the ethers and you're like, I hope that was didn't come off too And where's this tape gonna land?
And
Yes.
then there's like the unspoken rules of like, you don't actually ever want to be in a bra or something like that. I think is an unspoken rule of you never actually want to take your clothes off in any way, shape, or form. But then the scene is you literally having sex with somebody, so it's like,
Huh?
what do you want to do?
Seen it done well and I've seen it done not so well. And I think it's really nice to be able to communicate how people, I think it's stronger what's implied and what is insinuated off, literally off the frame. But I'm
Yes.
curious how you handled it and then how you handled it thereafter. Did you have to tape? Was every meeting thereafter you taping again and again, or you actually going in and working with them in the room?
So the very first audition, I didn't actually have any intimacy scenes for any of my audition process, which was great. I think one came into play later where it was the proposal scene where I proposed to Sophie, who plays my fiance in the first season. But other than that, no intimacy was required. It was more so just seeing Danny in her environment, like PR environment of being that sort of boss lady, if you will. And but like putting that on tape. And then the second meeting was with Marja Lewis Ryan, who is the creator of Gen Q. It was her and I want to say who they had selected, or no, it was just her. And then the third meeting was her and who they had selected for the other characters. It then became a chem read. And then Eileen Shaken, the original creator of the L Word, was present for that. And I
And that
really,
chemistry read. How was the chemistry read with all? Because that's another thing, how people approach their chemistry reads. Was that one in person?
that was in person.
Hallelujah.
Bless.
God bless.
Hallelujah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
truly. Because it's really hard to navigate it on a two-dimensional thing. It's really a effort. I think actors need to practice it before you just go and do a chemistry read with somebody. Just doesn't
Yeah.
work the same as where you can wing it when you go in person. There's a lot of tools I think you can use to do in person that we do all the time in dating, right? Or we like you
Yeah.
can figure out how to use your energy to affect another person's energy to see if you have chemistry or not.
Absolutely. I think I've also had experiences like very early on in my career that were chem reads for like films and whatnots where like maybe I got too handsy in the chem read.
Without permission. I always like to
Without
ask
permission.
right before, can I do this and
Yeah.
this? Yep.
Yeah.
You learned
Some
your lesson there. Yep.
coming into my brain. But for this specifically, the chem read was like the couple of other actors that were there for the other roles, they were all so willing and we were so open and it was really just a nice collaborative process. And I just remember reading with Rosanny Zayas, who ended up booking the role, and she was just such a powerhouse and it was so easy for me to connect with her because she was so available emotionally because the scene ended up becoming very emotional for she was just such a pleasure to work with because she was so giving. And it was like the perfect storm for the two of us. And we were just riffing off of each other and going off book and really just feeling each other out. And it was
Yeah.
pretty magical.
Okay, so seven meetings later, they
7 meetings later, I had a meeting with Jennifer Beals, like towards the end, because she was one of the EPs and she was like, I really want to meet her. So we did. And she was absolutely lovely and just so gracious and so kind and so excited. What it seemed at that point that they were pretty transparent with the fact that I was going to be coming on board, but you never really know until you're signing, until
contract.
you're there, actually.
No, truly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't even get the contract till you're in the trailer and you're like, am I good? Are
You
we good?
really? Yeah. And then eventually I got the phone call and it was like so surreal and so exciting, but it was definitely a journey to get there.
It always is, I feel like when it's your first time and
Yes.
then other ones come effortlessly or it's flipped and it's effortless to start and then a few years down the road you're like, "Oh, I have to really dig in for this." So
Mhm.
what are some like first time, yes, you were a series regular on the Go 90, but it's just different. Sometimes it's just a
So
little
different.
different, especially when you're working with veterans, especially when you're working with people who have already made a hit show and the pressure to have this come back on the air. What did you learn? What are some things that you learned that were good takeaways for you to take into the night agent?
Being on the L Word, I learned that you're going to get all different kinds of people. Being on a show for 3 years, 3 seasons, you come across a lot of guest stars, a lot of working with your regulars, just seeing how everybody interacts on the set, how you interact with everybody else on the set, and different personalities. There's a lot of that I learned a lot from being on the L Word, just because of just time. The length of time that I was on that show allowed for a lot of different types of things to go down. So
Even
just
guest directors, how are you handling the preservation of a character that you've created? You might have several episodes already banked. Here comes a great guest director. They're also a guest. I try to remind actors all the time, when you're a guest star, you're a guest in somebody's house. When you're a guest, the director's also a guest.
totally.
Regulars and the crew that have created this house that you get to go visit. But when directors come in, um, there are different egos at play. There's different senses of creativity. There's different ways of giving insights, or sometimes you don't get anything. But
Yeah.
how did you navigate the preservation of who your character was, or how did you learn to be malleable with the guest directors?
I think first and foremost, just being extremely professional at all times and understanding that not everybody's going to come in with the same preparation. Not everybody's going to have the same way of communicating, and just being kind and understanding and taking it one step at a time. I think sometimes people would get a little upset because of some directors coming in and not exactly giving the actors the respect of having created these characters and consulting with them first and before inserting themselves as directors, but that's their job. You know what I mean? So I think as long as you approach the situation with kindness while still fighting for what it is that you believe is right in that moment, I think there's ways and ways of doing things. There's ways of communicating how it is that you think the scene should be going, and still letting the director say their piece and give their idea of the scene, and then trying to find a middle ground.
Yeah, it is a negotiation under
Uh,
a time constraint that has money attached to it. And it's
yeah.
really interesting to watch how people do that. And I think when you're new, yeah, you learn quickly by observing your others that are higher up on the call sheet, or learning a practice that you're able to bring forth. It's like just learning how to communicate with two different ideologies at the same time. And it's great
Yep.
when you do have a director that comes in and speaks the same language, but that's not usually the case. It's a new skill. It's like you get so excited as an actor, you're like, I finally got the thing. I got the
Yeah.
thing. I'm doing the thing. They want to buy my, and then you get there and you're like, oh, right. Now I have to learn another set of skills.
I
And
do welcome that though. I get very excited for the challenge. I don't want like always the easy type of director because that's just not real life. I think the more that I can gain experience and like different types of experiences, that I find to be very helpful.
yeah, okay, so now helpful. I want to talk about how you utilized or how you got comfortable with the intimacy of the L word. I think as an actress, there's a lot that we can glean from each other on how a set is run, how we take consideration over what we need to have our instruments be fully available,
Mhm.
um, and what that practice is. And we don't always get to ask other actresses, like, hey, how did you do that thing? And you got
Right.
comfortable with it. So what was your practice, or who was able to help shepherd you through that? Or maybe that was fine for you.
I That show was very good about making sure that everyone on set feels comfortable. We had great intimacy coordinators, everyone was very attentive. The higher ups were very on top of, our producers were very on top of making sure that everybody felt comfortable and heard and respected. And so that was really nice. I've heard some horror stories and I myself I have yet to experience them, knock on wood. Just hasn't happened to me. So I feel very fortunate in that sense. And also, I personally am the type of person that I don't have any trouble speaking up if I feel uncomfortable.
Good.
I'm not shy to say, hey, I don't really like this, or hey, I don't like being touched in that way, or I don't feel comfortable with this situation. How can we work around it? I feel very comfortable advocating for myself. I didn't really run into challenges in that sense. I did find that sometimes other actors did not operate in the same way that I did, and they preferred to have an intimacy coordinator around, which at first I think was tough for me to understand because I am the way I am, and I'm like, oh, why can't we just talk about it? Like, why can't we just communicate the two of us? But of course, respected the third party and the intimacy coordinator and understood that was for some people a very valuable resource. You
Yeah,
know?
and have a hard time talking about intimacy, even
Yeah.
vulnerability is a hard time unless it's scripted. So it's really nice to have a third person interpret your feelings, your comfortability, and then be able to say it to somebody else. Okay, this
Yeah.
is what we're okay with. I sometimes look at the intimacy coordinator as almost a translator of emotions. It's a high stake emotional place, and some people are very comfortable being in that, and other people just aren't for their own reasons, backstory, whatever. But it's such a great utilizing force to now have. So everything's clear. I think
Mhm.
it's kind. Clear is kind. Sometimes it's hard to know if you're being clear in that moment. And so everybody's on the same page because you guys did such beautiful work. And I think in order to do beautiful work, you have to feel safe. The safer
Yes.
you feel, the more creative you are to be able to explore what you put on screen, what you feel comfortable putting on screen.
Mhm.
Um, I want to ask a question that I get asked all the time, and I feel like this is something that maybe early on in your career you were able to utilize with your team, or I would love to know your thoughts on it.
Yeah.
It's a little different, things have changed, but getting an audition for something that is maybe not your ethnicity, but you might be ethnically ambiguous. What is your viewpoint, literally, on either working on material like that, or do you pass on material? Like, how do you approach what you decide to do as somebody who is multi-ethnic and you can be approached in so many ways, especially when you're starting out? I had a couple actors last week reach out and they're like, I'm brand new. I'm actually Latina, but nobody thinks that I am. So I go out like this, or oh, so and so, I present like this, but I'm actually this. My team wants me to go out for this. I don't feel comfortable. And I think it's all up to however you feel comfortable is what gets shown. If I'm comfortable, you see it. If I'm uncomfortable, you're going to see it. But I'm really
Yes.
curious at the beginning of your career if that was something that you came up against or how you handled it.
So I think the industry definitely goes through trends. I think there's trends in what people want to see or what is more often than not being written, what types of characters are being written. And when I got into the industry, ethnically ambiguous was very in to for people to not be able to quite pinpoint exactly where you were from. So that for sure worked in my favor because you can't necessarily pinpoint where I'm from. I think people can see a hint of Middle Eastern, a hint of maybe Hispanic or something. I've gotten like Greek, I've got all sorts of things, which is very cool and very fun. And also, I've had other situations where I'm going out for a role that is just Latina or a role that is just Middle Eastern. And I've been told that I don't look either one of those things enough to the eyes of the person who's casting. And that's always rubbed me the wrong way because I speak the language. I am actually of that origin, my parents are. So being told that you don't look a certain way enough to the eyes of somebody who's not even that culture is a bit upsetting. Yeah, it's a bit upsetting, but I try not to let it bug me too much because I'm again of the type of people that I'll choose the path of least resistance. If there's something I know I cannot change, I'm not going to go and bang my head against a wall trying to figure out why it is that way. I'm just going to accept what, can't change it, accept it. That's what it is. I definitely feel too, being Middle Eastern, there were not as many roles. Being Latino, there were not as many roles for Latinos and Middle Eastern people that were not stereotypical roles.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think now we are starting to dig a little deeper and create more dimensional characters, which is really exciting and really cool. But I don't think it's always been like that. Yeah, so I've experienced a lot of it. And I think at the end of the day, we're actors. Our job is to inhabit a different skin. While I do believe that all types of people and backgrounds and races should be given equal opportunity, and I think we're very good about that, I also don't believe that it should be strictly limited that a Cuban person has to only play a Cuban person. You can't play a Mexican person because you're Cuban, I think is a bit absurd because at the end of the day, we're not making documentaries. We're making.
That part. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I was so curious. I've been told before she's not Southern enough. And I'm like,
Right.
oh,
What does that mean?
what does that mean? Truly, like at the end of the day, I don't know. and you have the tape to support it or whatever. It doesn't matter, really, at the end of the day. I do think you are what's for you finds you. I've
Exactly.
always believed that. And I do absolutely believe we are actors. So, they switch genders a lot. There's been several times where they're like, this is written for a man. They're really curious what you would do with it.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't balk at that. So I just think it's a personal opinion, but I just was really curious because trends have really shifted. Thankfully, so we're seeing stories that are about a human experience, and sometimes it matters and sometimes it doesn't matter. I like
Yes.
when it's open. May the right person get the job that the instrument, whatever instrument needs to tell that story to be most impactful, to be most
I
and understood.
The TV and film landscape, it's constantly changing, but traditional actor training has largely remained the same.
It's focused on a theater model whose main goal is to help you stretch the expression of your instrument. That's why you can have years of training,
From singing study classes to audition classes.
to even an MFA, and still not be able to book a 2-line co-star.
That's why we created the Bridge for Actors.
A collection of tech, craft, and business online courses to teach you the skills that you need to go from a student of acting
To a working actor.
Okay, how do I say this? Tatami? Is that how
Tatami.
Tatami?
Yeah.
Guy Nativ, friend of the pod, he's done it before. I love his films so much, so deeply.
So good.
So moving. They're so good. I would love to know how you came to be a part of this.
Tatami. So this was a couple years ago. God, it was 2021 maybe.
So before Night Agent,
Yeah. So before Night Agent and
post L Word.
post L Word in the middle of the pandemic
Yeah.
and just very interesting times going from a series regular on a show to doing a film, very indie, black and white film in Farsi. It was, for me, the most exciting thing I'd ever come across in terms of being someone who's very athletic, being someone who loves martial arts and wanting to represent my Iranian side. This was all of that in one. So I picked this up. I read the sides and I was like, oh my gosh. And I remember putting it on tape and being so excited. And I went a little out there with my initial tape. I tried.
Also, I love hearing this. What is the out there? What was your out there version?
I didn't exactly portray judo. I portrayed boxing, which is what I knew. I didn't have a gi, and I like fully covered myself in water as if I was sweating because that was part of one of my scenes. And I was in a sports bra and I had my hair like in 4 cornrow braids and got into that like fighter mentality in that way. Although that wasn't exactly what was written on the page, but that was what fed me in that moment. And that totally came across for what Guy had envisioned for this character is like a sort of female raging bull of sorts, like very intense, very gritty, very just headstrong kind of character. And then I was so excited. I remember I was actually at the Academy Museum for the first time and I was so inspired and I just submitted this tape and I was really, I'm the type of person that usually I let it go after I submit the tape. I really try to forget about it, but this one I just couldn't let it go and I was really excited and I really wanted to hear back. And then I did, saying that there was a callback, and then I got the script and I read the full script and it was very, very intensely highlighting the Iranian government, the truths of the culture, the truths of society. And that was very daunting to me. That was very scary. And I considered all sorts of things regarding safety and regarding what kind of film I'm about to make, what kind of story I'm about to tell. Like, what does it imply from my family? So many what ifs, and I was a bit scared, I'm not going to lie. So I think I had reached out to my agent, who then reached out to Guy, and they were like, I don't think she wants to move forward with the project because I was really just concerned about the safety of my family, honestly, not even myself, but like people who have nothing to do with the projects that I'm making, and telling because because the story is, it's well, again, one of those, like what you said about a man's story being told from a woman's perspective. So like making the man the woman. It's loosely based off of a male athlete who was in a similar situation to my character, where he was at a very big competition and was about to face an Israeli opponent and had to withdraw based off of what the government was telling, or the sports consulate was telling him to do. And he did or didn't, I don't remember exactly how the story goes, but the story of my character is a bit different from the real one. And that just was, it was such a heavy topic. And I was like, I think I have to pull out of this, guys. As much as I love this project, I think I'm worried about the safety of my family. They relayed the message, and then Guy asked to set up a Zoom, and him and his beautiful wife, Jamie, who's also a producer on the project, she's also in the project. They asked to meet with me, and they spoke, and they were like, look, we really think that there could be something special here. We're looking to tell, as Guy has a knack for telling very polarizing stories, very heavy, impactful stories, and he's great at it. And he was like, I think we have an opportunity here to make some magic, and I really would like to see what you can bring to the table. So please, let's go forward. We'll do this in the safest way we can, and we'd love to have you at the callback. And this was just for the callback. I didn't even book the job yet. But he really
love them.
Yeah, they were great. They were so great. And so I was like, okay, let's do it. So I did the callback. It was awesome. Then I started doing chem reads for the coach to play opposite me.
Yeah.
Bunch of those. Then chem reads to play my husband opposite me, and did a bunch of those. And I still hadn't formally gotten the job yet, but it was a bunch of mix and match chem reads, and so fun.
So was this when you said earlier, I've gotten a chance to be on the other side and see, is this the experience that you were talking about?
Yes. Also just various friends who create their own projects. And sometimes when I sit in on their watching tapes, because they're but yeah, definitely this, where they very much valued my opinion during the whole process. They were always asking for my input, always factoring it in. And so I did and I think we saw something like 12 or 15, maybe more actors for the different roles. And I got to see and work with all of them, and then chat with Guy and Jamie after about what we thought.
So, sitting in that seat, what good practices did you see versus what bad practices did you see? Is this where people were coming in the chemistry reads, or were you doing them over Zoom?
Zoom.
Great. God bless. I would love to hear. I think the audience would love to hear. What are some good Zoom practices that you noticed for chemistry reads?
I noticed that the most malleable ones were the best. Like the people that, yes, they had their thing when they came in, but were so willing to. And some people are better than others at playing off of you. Sometimes, and I'm sure you've experienced this, I'm sure a bunch of actors have experienced this, where they'll be reading with somebody, you don't feel like there's an exchange happening. It's more so just like you feel like somebody came in very prepared.
They have a plan and they're going to execute it. Yep.
And it doesn't matter what roadblocks, AKA you, or whatever you come in their way, they're going to stick to their plan, and they're going to charge forward with that plan. And I don't know if that's it. I think that the whole point of things like a chem read is to really be there with the other person and be listening and be receiving and giving based off of what you're getting.
Yes. It's right there in the title, chemistry read. If there is no chemistry, you can't have chemistry if you're not listening or taking in the other person. There's zero chemistry.
Exactly.
Two operating people. What were some of not so great things that might have bumped some people? Because I'm assuming once you get to that round, listen, everybody that's listening, you get to a chemistry read round, your talent got you there. Yeah. This is not a talent competition now in the chemistry read. Now it's really, I want to see something snappy between two people that I can set a camera down in between, and even in silence, I'm riveted.
Yeah.
That's what Guy wants. That's what any director wants, right?
Exactly. And being that it was an indie film, it was like the world was our playground. You could really do what you wanted. And someone like Guy was very much bring whatever you have. I don't care what it says on the page. I want you to, whatever feels right, do that. And so that was really fun. And I think the people that actually did that, That's more of the pro side, but the things that didn't work, I would say it goes again back to the people that are not malleable. When you come in and you're so rigidly attached to what it is that you have prepared, I had a couple of people that like I would give them something different, not to throw them off, but because it was what I was feeling based off of what they were giving me. So I would respond with something a little different than maybe what was on the page, and they'd be like, "Oh, that's not what it says there," and
They said that in the middle of the thing. Okay, bye. Thanks for playing. The game over. It's just game.
And look, I get it. Who knows if they maybe felt offended that they thought I was trying to throw them off, which was, of course, is never for whoever's listening. I will never try to throw you off. It's just what you're giving me something and I'm receiving it. I'm not going to give you what I've prepared. I'm going to give you what I'm feeling from you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Job. It is a feelings job. Do I feel something? Do you feel something? Or I don't feel anything. Oh, I'm not listening. Like I'm not.
Half the time I was like, oh, you're not even here right now. And then it would turn into the scene would turn into something else. Like, oh, you're not even listening to me.
Oh my gosh. Okay. You can choose any audition, any project that you worked on, any project that you're getting ready to go do, other than reading the script. You've already shared a few things that I love hearing that you do to prepare once you've gotten the job. But for the audition, like what do you excavate first, or what are you looking at to start bringing the character off the page?
Socioeconomic background.
Love it.
Yeah,
Great.
That's one of the first places that I go to because that is fundamental. It's like how you were raised. Are you blue collar? Are you very wealthy? Where did you live? Where did you grow up? What kind of people did you hang out around? What were you exposed to? What were you not exposed to? All of those were you sheltered? Were you not sheltered? I think all of that is so informative. So I always go there first. And obviously culture, if it's a specific country, if it's a specific state in the state, like the where. And then we layer in, is there a mental illness? Do we have diseases? Is there that sort of stuff?
Love that.
The mental state of the person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's where I start.
That's a great place. I love that. I haven't heard that in a while. Like the mental state. Truly.
Yeah.
Nomi Rapace said she always likes to look at what their trauma is, but she's not looking. She wants to see how they cope with the trauma. That's where she always starts. And I thought that was so riveting to be like, oh, okay, this person was abandoned a lot as a child. That doesn't interest her. It's how they deal with the abandonment. That's where she starts.
Oh, that's so fascinating.
Isn't that beautiful? I was like, oh, yeah. Because it is. It's so indicative of how we carry each other, ourselves, in intimacy and any interaction is how we use to numb out that pain.
Yes. We all have it. We all have the trauma.
We all have trauma. We do. Just we're human beings. So how do we deal with it? I have some fun rapid fire questions that I've been asking people. Hey, when you book the job, who's your first call?
Oh my gosh. Usually my mom, or if I have someone that I'm seeing, if I'm seeing a guy for a long time, I was seeing one guy, it was like 6 years. So he was always my first or second call. Then my mom, then my dad. My manager obviously is delivering the news. So I'm very close with her as well. She would be on that list otherwise. And then mom, dad, friends, probably like my best friend, Bonnie.
Yes. And then how do you celebrate? How do you celebrate when you get a win? I don't care if that win is a callback or getting the job.
I'm pretty notorious for when I get the job, I usually feel very overwhelmed, so I go sleep.
That's the first time I've heard that. That's great.
Yeah, yeah.
And good night.
Yes, and good night to you all. Thank you. Goodbye. I genuinely I feel so overstimulated, and it's like a reality check for me. I'm like, let's just sleep on it.
Let's just sleep on it. Let's see if this is real when I wake up. Is this a dream? Is it?
I don't know what it is. But then the next day it'll be like a dinner or drinks with friends sort of thing.
I love that.
Yeah.
How do you recover when you don't get the job? Although it doesn't seem like there's been many of that. But when you don't get it.
If you did the numbers of me having 5 to 6 auditions a week every week, but man, has that built thick skin. I'm so grateful for all of that. How do I recover? I don't really harp on it. I'm not gonna lie.
Great.
I'm pretty quick to be like, okay, I wasn't the right I say this all the time. You're either the sauce or you're not the sauce. It's not that your sauce is not good. It's just that you're either the sauce for the project or you're not.
You know,
And
yeah.
if you're not, it belongs to somebody else, and then yours is somewhere else. And so, yeah, I don't get terribly bummed out every once in a while. Yeah, you have one that you get really attached to, that you really love, that you really want, but it's pretty
Yeah, moving on.
bounce back. Yeah.
What's your most memorable first day experience? Which project was it? Why?
I think probably L Word because it was my first series regular. It was my first, it's a premium streamer. So the scale of it was larger than anything else I had experienced. And obviously the show is so iconic and I was just so excited to walk into this set and fill these shoes. And yeah, definitely L Word.
Such a good one. Okay, at lunch, are you in your trailer? Are you working out? Are you sitting with the crew?
Depends on how demanding the role is. If it's demanding, like energy wise, I'll be in my trailer usually because I'm the type of person that needs solo time to recharge. And I'm also very on. I think as like when we're on set, we're very on. So need recharge time. So I'm either in my trailer or I'm with the crew.
Okay, before set prep, before you go to set, what's your prep the night before or the morning of?
The night before in terms of scene work and like, lines and whatnot. And then the morning of must. It's very rare that I do not go to the gym before. I don't
Yes,
care how early my call time is. I will be in the gym.
I love that. That 3 a.m. call, you're like, great, so I'm going to the gym at 1 a.m. It's going to be.
Yeah. I'm supposed to not sleep at this point.
What do you do between setups? Between setups, what are you back to your phone? Are you coloring? What's your go-to?
Between setups, again, it depends on how demanding the role is, what kind of state I'm in for the scene upcoming. I used to not be like this, but I've actually learned through L Word to like be very protective of my mental state. Because one, I don't want to ever put anybody off that I'm being a weirdo if I'm in a weird mental state. So I'll just like be alone. Or I'm very guilty of wanting to interact with the crew all the time between takes because I love the crew and we always have so much fun and you meet the most fantastic people. I felt so fortunate for the great people that I've met so that I'm always just like talking to them. So I'll either be protecting my mental or I'll be talking to the crew.
Okay, favorite crew member. Not a specific person, but I think a lot of actors get on set and they're just like so focused.
Yeah.
There's certain crew members that I always gravitate towards.
I think makeup
Yeah.
specifically just because you guys are in this close proximity for an hour every day.
They know
And
so much about you by the end of the shoot.
so much about each
Yeah.
other. And
Right,
some of
right.
my dearest friends have come from that experience. So I would really say makeup is huge. Yeah.
Same, right there with you. Okay, this is my favorite one. Best rap gift that you've given or received.
I actually gave it, and I don't know who came up with the line. Maybe I did, maybe somebody else did, I don't remember, but it was for In the Vault, which it was just 3 months of debauchery, that show, with people. There were like 10 of us. We were all around the same age, and we just had so much fun. I've never had this, and we donned this name of summer camp.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I got everyone dog tags that said summer camp forever, which to this day just makes my heart so happy because and I'm still very good friends with a lot of the people from that experience. So summer camp forever.
Then this will be my final question. Favorite actor that you've gotten to work with, what did you learn from them?
Oh, I think this is fresh because I've worked with so many. Oh my gosh. It's got to be tied. I have two. I'm so sorry. Most recently in The Night Agent, I worked with a man named Naveed Negaban. He plays a boss or the Iranian ambassador in New York City. And he is just in every movie that you can possibly think of and show. And he's been working for years and he's just so skilled and so generous in his approach, in his acting. And I feel like I learned so many invaluable things from him during the course of shooting. And also just we become dear friends offset as well. Him and his wife Barbara are very dear friends of mine. And he's amazing. And then from Tatami, working with Czar Ebrahimi Amir, who was also my co-director alongside Guy, she just is such a light and has such a rich story, a personal story. Her life is just, she's been through a lot and she's still such a fun, wonderful human being. And when you get to know her, she's very special and she's also very talented and really about the work. And both awesome people that I've learned a lot from.
It's been a joy to learn from you and to sit in this seat and get to hear how the yellow brick road was like literally paved. And I like to see you getting to skip down it. It's pretty delightful, really.
You are delightful. Honestly, this has been such a, I feel like I've honestly forgotten about the time. I keep forgetting.
We're doing a thing.
So wonderful to speak to and just so present. And thank you. It's been really great.
Arienne, where can everybody find you? Are you on Instagram?
I'm on Instagram. That is the only social media that I use.
Okay. And fun new things will be coming up, so they need to go watch. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been so wonderful.